Hi guys, I'm not Sasha, but don't worry, the boring guy who says a lot, he'll be with us any second. While we wait for him, I think we should quickly talk about the housing market. I don't know if you noticed, but it's a bit broken. I know it, you know it, ChatGPT knows it, I mean a mentally challenged sloth can see it, even Sasha seems to be aware.
Today, Damien and I are teaming up to look at solutions for the housing crisis. It is of critical importance that we sort this out. High housing costs and the amount of money people have to pour into just keeping a roof over their heads stops them from spending in other areas of the economy. Adding to the stagnation this country feels, if we don't do something, this is only going to get worse. The ONS forecasts that the number of households in England is projected to rise to 26.9 million in 2043, an average increase of around 150,000 households per year every year. And this doesn't include the millions of homes that we need just to catch up after decades of falling short and failing on house building targets. But it's not good enough to just whack up a load more homes and be done with it. Of the 340,000 homes a year we need to build, or the 300,000 that the government has plucked out of thin air, 145,000 of these, almost half, need to be affordable homes.
As the saying appears to go on this channel, it's helpful that no one actually knows what the fuck an affordable home is. The House of Commons Library themselves acknowledge there's no agreed upon definition. Such is the lack of consensus over what affordability means in housing terms. It's been suggested that the concept should be abandoned because it's unhelpful.
Affordable homes programme.
But what does it mean?
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not. It
Gets the people going.
No, it doesn't. But we can probably all agree that affordable housing isn't city centre high-rise luxury developments with swimming pools, gyms and a 24-hour concierge. So how do we fix this once and for all? Because even though every major political party makes promises to attempt to tackle this issue, this is a problem decades in the making that will require a raft of changes to resolve. I just dropped another video on my channel where we cover how we got into this mess, and we'll link that in the description below. Okay, so I'm not going to offer a definition of what affordable is, but let's say the housing crisis can be summed up by the fact that the average person in the UK can no longer afford to live in the average home. Just ask Sam, an average looking bloke earning a very average income of 30k, looking to rent the average flat in East London, only to be told that he's too poor for affordable housing.
According to the government, Sam is a peasant, and instead of living in a home, he can just go fuck himself.
I mean, that's one way of putting it. Another way is that the requirements that landlords put on affordable housing is they want people to earn between 35 and 60k a year. So broken is the system that a person on £60,000 a year, this is an income that the Institute for Financial Studies describes as so high that you lie beyond the far right-hand side of this chart being the distribution of incomes in the UK. So that person who's off the chart fits the bill for affordable housing, but someone earning the UK national average income is deemed too poor to live in an affordable home.
Well, then the solution seems simple, right? Build more homes, increase the supply, and bring down prices for all by increasing the amount of homes available to rent and buy. But of course, in the UK, it is far from that easy. Artificially constrained by a relic from the middle of the 20th century, that is how a white paper from the UK government describes the UK's planning system, which is the major roadblock in the UK's way when we aim to build more homes. It doesn't matter one bit what the government says in terms of building targets or the manifesto promises if that does not translate to spades in the ground at the local level. The problem with the UK system is it is discretionary. There is no certainty in any application whether it's going to be approved or not, because it's a case-by-case system. If you know the right people, the right things can happen, and if you don't, the right things may well not happen. Applicants essentially write a letter to Santa and go to the local planning authority with a begging bowl, praying and asking for the permission to build. Even if you get past that hurdle, well, it doesn't really matter, because then at every stage of the application process, you will be vetoed by basically anyone, giving great power to NIMBYism at a local level from people who probably understand the need to build new homes, understand that it is necessary somewhere, but just don't want them built specifically near them.
Any attempt to remove these blocks has just fallen flat on its face, because the problem is compounded at the political level. While the Conservatives may have a desire to appease younger voters who struggle to get on the ladder, they also need to protect the best interests of their home-owning older voters, leading to all plans to reform planning never getting off the ground. I mean, just ask Rishi, who parked planning reforms and building targets when he stepped into number 10. To fix the housing crisis, we need to fix planning, and the way we do that is by removing the uncertainty and this discretionary case-by-case basis for approval. Local targets for house building should be set, and a zonal process could be implemented, marking out areas where you can build homes, retail and public services. In mainland Europe, a developer can be pretty sure that if their plans meet local plans and those set out by central government, and they comply with building regulations, they're likely to be approved. Reforms to this side of the system are imperative if we ever hope to actually hit building targets. Make it easier to build on brownfield sites. Introduce incentives or punishments to push developers to build on land banks instead of just sitting on them. All of these measures can help the UK hit a house building target for the first time in decades. But will that suddenly fix the affordability problem? Probably not.
The UK government thinks that the UK needs to build 7 million homes in the next 20 years if the government hit their target of 300,000 homes or 340,000 homes or whatever that latest made-up number is. Oxford Economics modelled the impact of reaching the building target on prices and found that a sustained building of 310,000 homes a year only produced a 5% decline in the baseline forecast of prices going forward. Not really going to help all that much, is it?
Yes, more homes are needed, and that will help. But it's not a magic solution, and it will only work together with macroeconomic policy to bring house prices down relative to incomes in the future. The decline in interest rates over the last couple of decades, especially the rock bottom rate environment we've had since the financial crisis, has done far more to house prices than this supply and demand debate. The cheap debt we've all got far too used to magnified the impacts of constrained supply by allowing people to pay more and more for existing housing stock, pushing prices ever higher. And really, the only solution to this issue is a reversal of that trend. The economists say that a drop of 5% can come from house building, but the Bank of England says another 20% can come from jacking up interest rates and keeping them higher for longer. This process should have already happened over a decade ago.
But the Bank of England decided to sit there with their thumb up their ass, too scared to increase rates and rock the boat while the going was good. According to the Bank of England, you make hay in the winter because the summer is for partying and drinking champagne. Instead of millions of homeowners seeing their mortgage payments double in 12 months, we could have spread this effect out over the last 15 years. Now look, at this point, we can talk about tax reforms, go back and forth on planning, but really, the thread that weaves this whole mess together, the NIMBYs, the lack of supply, the impact of low rates, all of it, is the national obsession with rising house prices and the idea that the home you live in is or should be your biggest investment.
62% of people in the UK own their own home, while only 18% invest in stocks and shares. The average pension pot at retirement is £55,000. Most people retire with very little in investments or savings. They've just spent their whole lives investing in their home before hitting retirement and having to sell and then downsize. And that smaller house they buy is still really fucking expensive. Feels good saying that out loud, because even though your house price went up 10%, so's everyone else's. You're not winning relative to anything. We're all just collectively spending more of our salaries on our mortgages, with the only winner here really being the bank.
An investment of £300,000 would have produced about £30,000 a year in growth if you take the average of the global stock market over the last 100 years. This money is liquid. You can access it when you want, for whatever you want reason. If you lose your job, you can use that investment to plug the gap until you find a new job. If you have an unexpected expense, you can go and get some money. If your mortgage payment doubles, you don't have to go homeless. You can weather the storm because you have investments. What does £300,000 equity in your house do? Nothing. You can't access it without first getting the approval of your bank manager and paying thousands in fees. And if things go south and you lose your job, your bank isn't exactly going to let you pull more equity out of your house.
The rise in rates recently has shone a light on this by turning millions of people into debt slaves, forced to funnel every spare penny they've got into the exact same property. Everyone should aspire to have a paid-off home, like you should look to feed yourself or clothe yourself. Shelter is an essential, but the long-term trends of falling supply and declining interest rates have led to this nation looking at their house as something it's not. And that needs to change if we ever hope to solve the housing crisis.